All right, guys, welcome back. We're going to be going over market structure. So let's get into it. All right, so market structure. There we have a range. Okay, these two are different. Now, they're different in many ways. Okay, and there's going to be something that you're probably going to struggle with to try to find the difference between them. Right, so market structure, just put it as here. Market structure is our basic higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, right? A range, it's going to be a QM, and a QM is strong high, strong low. I know we haven't covered this yet, but bear with me, right? That's what a range is, okay? Now, market structure. So we have a higher high, higher low, all right? What creates this higher high and then confirms this higher low? That would be the range. So in this higher high, there's going to be a strong high, Quasimodo. And then here's going to be a strong low, a Quasimodo. Okay. Inside of these legs. Still with me? Okay. So when we're talking about market structure breaks, BOS, let's say that price breaks this high right here. Let's say that high is broken, right? When price breaks that high and there's a strong low right here, and then there's a strong high right here, let's say. This is a breakup structure, and this low will simply be the higher low making a higher high. So now price should come back to make a new higher low, right? So when price comes back, and let's say price cuts into a POI, goes up, and fails to take out this high, this right here is what you call a failure swing. A failure swing, okay? It failed to make a higher high, all right? So because it failed to make a higher high, it becomes known as a weak low because it failed, right? So it's a failure swing. Okay, you can call it that, or you can call it a weak low. You're gonna hear me say weak low a lot more than failure swing, but it's a failure swing point to make a higher high, known as a weak low. Okay, so because price failed and it created a weak low, what does that mean? That means because it failed, we can expect price to come back down and take this low out, which would then eventually come into some POI, all right? So now this is still your higher low. This is still your higher high, okay? This right here, this should give us a higher high, all right? And when that happens, that's where that new structure low, strong low will be created. So in here, we're gonna get a Q. Again, we haven't covered this, but I'm slowly starting to kind of introduce it, but we'll cover this in full detail down the course. I just have to include this because this is how I see market structure and arrange. So price will come and take out this high, which would be officially our target. All right. Again, we'll cover that in the future videos. So this is the R higher low. That's the R higher high. Now it made a new higher low after it took out this high to create that new higher high. Now we can anticipate a what? Another higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Right? Now we can anticipate a new higher low. So for that to happen, we're gonna need price to create the QM, which would be our new higher high, as I have it here. Okay. Higher high. And I gotta create the higher low. Now price can do whatever it wants in here before that new higher low is made. Okay. Then eventually it'll go and hit our target. That's why we use ranges to identify where we're at in the market. So for example, that's inducement or liquidity. I didn't want to talk about it, but oh well, I'll just introduce it. Liquidity, all right, or inducement, let's say, for example. Don't worry about it if you don't know what that is. All right, so then that would be a new range. And then a new range will be created until it comes down into a point of interest, POI. And that's when we should get a new what? A new higher low, right? To confirm that, we gotta get a Quasimodo and target this. That's how market structure and ranges are put together. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there's quite a few differences, right? It's not just every single low and high in the market. It's not what you learned, the basic stuff of higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And then they tell you higher high, higher low. Well, actually, let me change color. It'll be something like this. It'll be like higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, break structure, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. It's not like this. Okay, it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen like they're telling you. All right. So we use market structure, the basic understanding, to identify our leg. All right, higher high, higher low. Right? But the way that we identify these legs is through ranges, which you guys will be introduced into ranges very soon. So I hope this is making sense so far. Again, this is just the basic stuff, so you can already imagine the advanced. So let me give another example. Okay, now a bearish one. Low, high, low, low, right? Broke structure, we made a lower low. And now we're gonna pull back to make a potential, what? Low, lower high, low, low, okay? So lower high. That's what we're expecting. But it's not gonna look like this, and we know that. It's not just gonna make a lower low, a lower high, a lower low, lower high, right? We know that. So we're gonna use this understanding, right, to identify what we can anticipate next for the market to move with the basic understanding of structure. Swing point here, swing point here, right? And obviously in here, there's a range, high and a range low, which is a bearish QM, bullish QM, strong low. Currently it will be a strong high, right? And then anticipate a retracement. When price comes in here, it'll take out, like I mentioned, some liquidity, and then eventually it will go down. Okay. So let me put this together. Because it's quite confusing. Maybe I'll be able to understand it this way. We broke structure. Now you're going to ask me, what do we need to confirm a BOS? We need wick to body. Wick to body. All right. That means that I want the body to close above the wick. That's my break of structure. I know there's wick to wick. I know there's body to body, but this is the one that I recommend to use. That's the one that I use. That's how I get my BOS, right? So once we get that break of structure to the upside, and then here we're gonna have obviously a strong low, right? We're gonna make that new higher high. We're just gonna form that Quasimodo. Inside, there's gonna be liquidity and trend liquidity that we're gonna be taking. But it's not gonna come like this. No, it's going to come down in ranges. Okay. It's going to come down in ranges. Right, strong high, strong low, strong high, strong low, strong high, strong low, right? Now, again, yeah, and some of you know from my YouTube channel, you know, weak highs and weak lows, right? Again, we're not talking about ranges. I'm just using strong high, strong low because it's easier for you guys to understand. But that right there is our higher high. That's our retracement to potentially make higher high, higher low to make a what? A potential new high. If price fails to make a higher high, then this is going to become weak. Going to get taken. All right. And then from there, we should anticipate a move to the upside, known as a failure swing. So we're about talking talking about ranges. If this low fails to make a new higher high, it's a failure swing. It failed to make a new high. And then people consider this to be a now, oh, change of structure or a change of character or whatever, right? It's not. This is just simply more liquidity being fed, right? That is weak. It's a weak low. It's going to get taken. And you can already imagine all the people going short here, thinking that, oh, it broke structure right here. That's not a BOS to us. All right. That's why market structure by itself is very flawed. That's why we combine structure with ranges. You need to have the understanding of the basic higher highs and higher lows with a combination with the range understanding. So the bigger picture, right? So obviously that will get taken. So I'm gonna dive a little bit deeper, just a little bit deeper. This will also be taught in the video about ranges. Probably asking, how do we know, where's my pin? How do we know when this high or this low fails? Once we get a Quasimodo formed. So once we get a breaker structure, so once we get a BOS in the opposite direction. All right. Once we get a BOS in the opposite direction, we can anticipate, now listen to my words, anticipate for this to be weak and taken. All right. Then eventually price would come down, take that, and then take out this high. All right. That's how we use the current structure. So high came down. People would say, oh, it failed. This right here failed. Let's say, or well, it depends on where it's coming from. So I'm not gonna say it failed because I don't want to confuse you guys. So just high, low, higher high, higher low, right here that we were anticipating to make a new higher high, failed, failure swing, gets taken. So this is not a higher low no more. This is your higher low, anticipating a new higher high. Okay. So using the basic structure understanding with the understanding of ranges, which is what you're going to learn in the next video. And then we're going to combine eventually these two together, and it should make sense. Okay. So make sure you rewatch this. It's very important that you understand microstructure and ranges because these two are pretty much the main foundation. Besides the fact that everything is fractal, which is very important, but this is what's going to help us identify where we're at in the market overall. So I'm going to go over one more example. So we broke structure here. Price comes down, let's say, right? And it comes into a point of interest. Let's say it came into a breaker. Right. If you know what that is, don't worry about it. Just know it's a point of interest, right? So in there, when it came into here, okay, we're anticipating, let's say, price to make a higher high. Again, if it fails, that becomes weak, it will get taken. All right. And then we anticipate higher prices. This was supposed to be higher high, higher low, but because it failed, it is not your higher low, okay? It is not your higher low. So do not think it's a BOS and look for shorts here. And it's not gonna do that, right? It's gonna take out liquidity and then come here, all right? So now let's go into some liquidity. But you need to understand this with structure and ranges. So, like I mentioned, for us to have a breaker structure, we want to see a candle body close above. It can be one candle, it can be multiple candles. Multiple candles, even better. Now, there's one thing that you're going to hear me say a lot is trade what you see, right? Trade what you see and not what you think that's going to happen. Because anybody can think that something's going to happen. But what do you currently see going on right now? What are you waiting for? What's happening, right? And trade the obvious. It's very important. Trade the obvious. Trade what makes sense to you. If it doesn't make sense, why are you going to take a trade? Don't force nothing. Do you see it? Yes or no. Simple as that. Is that a BOS for you? Well, I don't know, because this is either yes or no. Which one is it going to be? If it's a no, then it's a no. If it's a yes, then it's a yes. Don't second guess yourself. All right. It's very important to have confidence. Very important, guys. All right. So how can we identify a liquidity run? A liquidity run, right, can happen whether it's only a wick or a body. They're both valid. Now you have to understand this, right? These concepts, market or ranges, do not work if they're used by themselves. You got to combine everything that you're going to learn in this course. All right. No one can tell you if it's a liquidity run or if it's only a breaker structure, because no one knows. There is no secret to that. All right. But when you combine it with different things, with more confluences, then eventually you get a system that is very accurate. Right. So for BOS, we only want body. At least that's what I use. If you disagree on that, then use whatever you want, but I use body. For run liquidity, it can be a wick or a body. They're both valid. But remember, we don't use it by itself. We combine with everything else, POIs, liquidity, and etc. And also where we're at higher time frames and so on. All right. So that's on that. So now let's give an example on that. So we have break of structure, all right? And then QM, we come down, price goes up, fails, failure swing, so that becomes weak, so weak low. And let's say just below that we have a POI right there, all right? So this right here becomes an inducement to this POI, right? Because it's a failure swing. Now let's see it the regular structure perspective. Break of structure, short. What did they just do? Created liquidity. The big players just created liquidity, trail line liquidity. All right. So while they think it's a BOS, the other traders, for us it's liquidity run. So we go long right here. Our entry, we target up here. All right. So this is a combination of structure and a little bit of range. Again, we haven't gone over this, but I need to introduce this first before I introduce this. So now we're going to go into this. All right. And of course, liquidity will be taught when we go over ranges because they go hand in hand, right? I mean, even structure and ranges go together, but I need to find a way, or I needed to find a way to explain to you guys that was not so hard to understand. So hopefully this wasn't so hard to understand. Like always, if you have questions, you can always ask me or ask in the community. And just below this video, there's going to be resources with information, right? If you need more than just this video, right? It's going to be the written version, examples of this. So you can go and read that and check that out yourself. But other than that, guys, that's it for this. I hope it made sense. On to the next one.